I love our community. I made Cumberland County my home since I was 18 years old as a young soldier here at Fort Bragg. And as the past 8 years as one of your district court judges, I've been honored to serve you. And I hope that you'll allow me to continue to serve you as one of your judges.
So welcome to Big Perspective Media. Today we have a wonderful guest with us, the Honorable Judge Lou Olivera. He serves as the District Court Judge for the 12th Judicial District here in Cumberland County. He was elected to this position back in November 6th of 2012, and I want to give him an opportunity to introduce himself and tell more about his background and what he wants to do for Cumberland County.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm Lou Olivera. I'm one of your 10 District Court judges. There are 10 District Court judges here in Cumberland County. I've been on the bench for 8 years. We hold, district court judges hold court over criminal and traffic and civil, domestic, DSS court, juvenile court, and their treatment courts, and I've presided over all those courts here. I first got stationed here in 1989, and I made the community my home and kind of gotten to where I am today.
Wow. Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah,
it really means a lot.
Yeah.
So you say you were stationed here. Were you prior service?
I am. Thank you for your service too. Thank you for your service too.
Cool. Everybody
And so, I got stationed here when I was 18. I was a little Spanish boy out of Long Island, New York.
Okay.
And so I made my way here when I was 18 and stationed at Fort Bragg. I was 97 Bravo. We were talking about this earlier about Petro.
Yep.
Go ahead. Oh, God, the petroleum specialist.
Yeah,
you know, I did a story on him not too long ago.
Really? He was talking about JP4 and JP5, all type of good stuff.
JP8.
JP8.
Hey, the Army doesn't move without petroleum.
That's
That is
true.
true.
You got to get there some way.
That is true. People got to respect the fuelers out there.
So I got stationed here when I was 18. I was a 97 Bravo. I did counterintelligence, counterterrorism. I was with the 525 or the 519th MI. And so I got stationed here, deployed during the Gulf War, got out here. Then I stayed in the reserve unit. It was a special reserve unit. I still did counterintelligence operations.
Okay.
And then kind of went to undergraduate, and then I went to law school and kind of made my way to where I'm at today.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. That is a great resume.
Well.
So we know that we're going to get into all the judge stuff and your success as that, but let's get the people to understand who you are like as a person. So what is Judge Oliver? How do I say it? Olivera?
Yeah, Olivera. It's like the hand lotion. It's
How does
spelled differently.
Judge Olivera?
It's good for
Look,
the skin.
I was gonna say that, and I was like, hold on, don't
it's kind of
mispronounce
cold
the man's
outside
name
too. I
now.
need a little hand lotion on my hands. So.
But what do you like to do just on your day to day? What's some of your vices? What do you like to do?
Believe it or not, I'm kind of a quiet type of guy. The courtrooms are busy. There's a lot that comes at you. We deal with hundreds of people, every day, all walks of life, and people going through some difficult times, and so, when it's away from the courthouse, I kind of, I read, or my daughter and I like go kayaking, and so we watch movies. I'm a Star Wars fan, old school Star Wars fan.
I never got into it.
May the fourth be with you too. Not the fourth, the fourth. May the fourth be with you. On the back of my Jeep, you see a Millennium Falcon too. So we like being outdoors. We go zip lining, and we'll take the Jeep onto the beach. So we're kind of, we do things together, and just taking it easy, and so away from the courthouse.
Now, do judges really get tickets? Because I don't believe y'all get driving tickets.
I don't know about that. I drive the speed limit, and
said,
the
"I
reason
follow the
why.
rules."
No, listen, I do. I follow the rules of the road, because I follow the rules of the
I
road.
don't know everybody's speed.
No, because
Y'all get like little bands say.
No. I drive a Jeep, so I can't go fast in that Jeep. And so even if I wanted to speed, I can't go fast. And so, but no, it's I drive a Jeep. I love my Jeep, and it's a box on wheels, so I couldn't go fast if I wanted to. And when you push your foot on the gas, you just watch the gas pedal, needle go down.
Yeah.
It drinks gas. It drinks that JP4, JP5. It drinks it.
Oh, no.
I need some petroleum.
So let's talk about some of your contributions. You've been on the bench for 8 years now.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your contributions that you've added that you brought to Cumberland County being appointed?
Well, since I got here when I was 18, I always feel that, if you love your community or even if you live in a community, better it, whether it's picking up trash on the side of the road, just find something. This is a great community. I've made it my home. And there are a lot of things that if you find an interest in, you can find, many organizations you can be a part of. And so, since I've been here, I've been on many nonprofits and helped many organizations, United Way, Rape Crisis, the March of Dimes, the Heart Walk. And so I've tried to be active, not only in my profession, but also in the community, try to make it serve. But in court here, I preside over the many courts, and so. But one thing I'm proud of is Cumberland County's. We have our first Veterans Treatment Court here, and I've been the presiding judge over that for the past 5 years since we started it here.
So for those that aren't familiar with the Veterans Treatment Court, can you go and dive into like what that is?
Well, there's in the court system, when people look at our court systems, we try to help with recidivism. And it's said, and it's the truth, it's cost efficient to help or reduce recidivism, but also it's the right thing to do in our hearts. But for the grace of God, they go I. And I believe that in my heart, but for the grace of God, there go I. And so Veterans Treatment Court is one of our treatment courts here. You have sobriety court, you have family drug treatment court. You have one of our new courts here. It's called Worth Court, involving human trafficking, where Judge King, one of my colleagues, presides over. And then we have Veterans Court, where those veterans that come through our court system, many from PTSD issues or substance abuse issues, find themselves in the court system. And so we try to identify those veterans, and we have an intensive court. And Cumberland County is a very unique community, as you and I know.
Yes.
It's the largest military community in the nation,
Absolutely.
and we have the largest percentage of retirees in the nation. So we also have the largest percentage of combat deployable forces.
Right, exactly.
So, you have a lot of veteran retirees, people getting out of service with service-related issues, combat, substance abuse, PTSD, and sometimes they find their way in a court system.
So when they do come in front of the court system and they have those issues, like, do they get into treatment for free, or is it at a cost to them? Is it a program that you just mandate them to go through? Like, how does that work?
Well, the Veterans Court is part of, we have two parts. We have part that's pre-trial or pre-adjudication, and then we have post-trial. So the post-trial are those that are put on probation, and then then in their probationary period, they're reviewed or maintained by the Veterans Treatment Court. And then some people that are pre-adjudication, they're found guilty or pled guilty, that we kind of supervise too. And so it's through the court system. But what's unique about Veterans Treatment Court than the other courts is that we work with the VA. We have a VA rep.
That's good.
The intensive court is there every 2 weeks. And so I preside over Veterans Treatment Court every 2 weeks, and they come before me, we talk, and the courtroom's closed, so they have their confidentiality. But on our vets treatment team, we have probation, we have the district attorney's office, we have the public defender's office, we have the veteran service officers here, we have law enforcement, we have private health care providers, and what's unique is we have the Veteran Administration, or the VA hospital sends a person there to help with us too. And then we also have something that no one else has. We have a mentor court.
Oh, that's really good.
That's
Okay.
That's actually how I met you, through the mentor court. I remember I was living in D.C. at the time, and I was coming back to Fayetteville. This was my home, and his untimely loss, Craig. That's who I met, who was spearheading that, at least from an administrative standpoint. And he says, "Hey, Chas, you gotta get involved with this. You gotta come check this judge out." So I sat in your courtroom, and I said, "Wow, this is amazing," because from my standpoint, from the outside looking in, it appears as if you're able to judge based on not only the facts of the case, but also the human side of it. That this is a veteran, this is someone that made a mistake. Their punishment, more or less, should be more rehabilitative versus punitive in nature. And so, with that being said, it really encouraged me. But what really caught my while I was in D.C. was Joe Cernan, April 2016. Go more into that.
Well, like you said, the Veterans Treatment Court. And if I could take a little side detour, Craig Shore was the gentleman you spoke to.
Absolutely.
And a couple of years ago on July 4th, Craig was an Air Force retiree. He did substance abuse counseling and treatment and job rehabilitation while he was in the Air Force. And so when he got out of the Air Force, he was our vets court coordinator, our day-to-day manager, and it was a paid job. And so, but on July 4th, a couple years back, he suddenly passed away. And months before Craig passed away, we lost our funding. We lost our funding for Craig, but Craig continued to work months for free.
Wow.
And to this day, our mentor coordinator, who Craig brought in, took up the job. And so we've had no funding for going on 3 years.
Wow.
And we had the mentor coordinator work for free.
Who do we need to talk to get y'all some funding?
Well,
That's crazy.
we've tried to rally the state. Everybody, there are a lot of good causes out there. We try to get some state funding.
If y'all
So-
out here listening and y'all got
so-
some money, y'all need to
yeah.
help fund them, okay?
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Seriously.
They're trying to do good stuff.
So so in court, it's it is and I believe it's my heart, but for the grace of God, they go I. I've been blessed in many ways, and I've served in combat and I've seen it,
Yeah.
and so when those individuals come through and they're all struggling for different things, and so Joe was one of our individuals that came through our court, and he's a good guy, ex-SF soldier, was injured in combat one time. There was a grenade. He was interviewing a Taliban soldier, and the story he says is that he turned his head for a second, and he hears a ping, ping. And for those that serve in the military, you know what that is. It was a grenade.
That's a grenade. Yeah.
That's a grenade.
Yeah.
And so that injured him. But one time, he and his SF team were in back of a transport, and the road gave way, and it overturned into a ravine. And they were locked in the back, and the water started rising. And so there were several members of his team in there, and they all drowned but Joe. Wow. And so
my
it rose
goodness.
to his
Yeah.
chin. And so Joe had a fear of confined spaces. And so,
Rightfully so. Yeah.
so I had to, one day he had a probation violation. I had to send him a day in jail. And anyway, long story short, and that's Joe's story. I always said it's Joe's story. It's not my story to tell. It's Joe's story to tell. But I waited for him in the jail, and I could tell when he came in, he was distressed. And so I just decided to serve the sentence with him.
So you know what that reminds me of? Have you ever seen the YouTube judge? Like he's a judge in I think
the
it's
guy
New
in
York or New
Providence,
Jersey,
Rhode Island?
Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And he's so compassionate, and
Yeah,
he truly
yeah.
listens to
He
all of their
does, he
stories,
does.
and he's kind of became like YouTube famous.
Right.
So that reminds me of something like that, because you're able to really have compassion.
Absolutely.
Yes, you gotta go. I mean, yes,
I mean, that's his job.
they have to. You have to do your
Well,
job.
break the law.
But
people
it's
just think they go to that judge, they not gonna go to jail.
No,
Oh, no.
no.
He's sending somebody.
No, he is
knows.
sending people,
Some
and he's
people-
making them pay fines, but he's also understanding their
understands,
financial
yeah.
Right.
situation. He's
Right,
understanding
right.
their personal situation. And I think that when you're in that position of power, having a little bit of empathy, not sympathy, but empathy,
Absolutely.
really goes a long way.
Like I said, I keep saying, but for the grace of God, they go I, and I mean that. And so, I've suffered, growing up, my family with drugs and alcohol. My mom passed when I was 13, and I went to different homes, and my father was not around, and so and a lot of my family did suffer from drugs and alcohol. And so I've seen it growing up. My grandmother, mi abuelita, was an alcoholic till she was 50 something, but she was a saint. An absolute saint, and she lived in this community, and she volunteered at the Cumberland Council for Older Adults, and so just because people struggle don't make them bad people.
Right.
They don't. So you have to take a moment and look at this person, and people need to be held accountable.
Yeah.
But you need to kind of look at that person and do say, but for the grace of God, they go on. And so you got to remember that, and I try to remember that every day.
So you got 8 days until election, and this year we got 2 Democrats, running for that judge, the district judge. What is the difference between? I don't want to say between her and you, but why should someone check your name off on that ballot versus her?
Well, and I believe this. It's the job I hold as a judge is not my job. It is something that people have elected me to, and so you have to understand that and never be offended by someone filing against you, And so, but I think I've done a good enough job not only on the bench for the past 8 years, but I've made Fayetteville my home, and I've tried to work in the community, doing on boards and organizations, and and I have experience. I have a lot of experience, and I think experience does matter, but also, what you've done in this community matters, and I've made it my home since I was 18. And I'm the only combat vet on the bench out of 15 judges in a town full of combat
That
vets.
can't hurt, though. That can't hurt
On
now.
combat vets, and so and I'm the first. A lot of things make up me, and one thing I'm proud of my heritage. I'm the first elected Hispanic judge in North Carolina history. That doesn't mean makes me a good judge, but you know, a lot of things go into the fact that, you know, I'm trying to do my best for the community.
But it does make you history.
It does.
I just knew I couldn't be no judge. It would go right to my head.
And that is, listen, and that's what I was about to
I
ask.
couldn't do it.
Have you
Yeah.
ever had like any case that came before you and you were like either what were they thinking or was it so gut wrenching? Like, have you ever had those kind of experiences?
We're human.
Yeah.
We're human, and that we talked about this maybe pre-show.
Yeah, pre-show, yeah.
Pre-show is that, you know, judges are not. We're not. This is not Lord of the Rings. We're not magical creatures. You know, I trip and I skin my knee and bleed just like everybody else. And
Right.
so, that's one thing I tried to keep focused. You know, on the bench. You know, is that robe is not a magical cloth that brings me supreme knowledge. You know, but you know, you try to, you apply the law. And you try to hear the people, and every case is important.
Right.
And then let me tell a quick story. You know, my grandmother, mi abuelita, I came home one time when she was still with me, and she was upset, and she was crying. And I'm like, Abuelita, what's wrong? And she says, I got a ticket for no inspection. I forgot my inspection, and I got a ticket. And she was upset about it. And I'm like, Grandma, it's no inspection. We'll take care of it, you know? But the point to that is that case mattered to her.
Right.
It mattered to her. It was big to her. And you have to remember that sitting up there, you know, that robe is not a magical cloth. And everyone that comes before you, their case matters much to them. And so you have to be invested in that as well.
I'm not gonna lie, it is scary going in them, like even for traffic tickets, because I've been known for traffic tickets.
Can you forgive some of Trent's
I
traffic
would just say,
tickets?
I think judges I know is because they've seen me in traffic court.
Well, I give out lollipops too. You know, that's seriously. If sometimes kids come to court, and you know what? It's an intimidating thing. I mean, you know, I remember I had to kind of go to court when I was a kid. You know, dealing with, you know, with my father, and so and you know, through, you know, juvenile court because, you know, my father wasn't around, and so I remember as a child being in court. You know, and so you want to have that lesser impact because you remember when you go to court, you know, and so, but yeah, if a kid comes to court, I keep lollipops in my thing, or I have little stuffed animals and stuff like that too. And so,
I just come in a three-piece suit so that y'all
But-
don't say anything.
but you ain't getting a lollipop, man. I'm sorry. You nice and everything.
You're like 30.
Yeah.
You know
Say
better.
did, I'm a clear.
Yeah, I'll give you a lollipop. That's what-
I just sent my lawyer. but with that being said, you've earned a lot. You also are the recipient of the Longleaf Pine, which is the highest award bestowed on a civilian by the governor of the state. So two things I'm asking here. One, tell me what that feeling felt like to earn that award, and more so, how did you feel when you and I think you was with Judge Steve Stokes as well in 2012. How did it feel to win that seat on the bench?
It was. I've ran several times,
Okay.
and I was unsuccessful, and that's okay. That's okay, you know. And so, it's humbling. It really is humbling, you know. And when you see, you know, a lot of people, you know, out there supporting you and helping you, you know, it's humbling. And so, you know, while, you know, I ran before, was unsuccessful, you know, you have to take every life experiences is what you take from it, what you draw from it. So, you know, I've been active, and you know, when I won, I felt an accomplishment, but it was also, you know, I had to understand that it was a duty. It was a duty to do things. You know, I've asked people to trust me to do right by you. And I think that, you know, you've asked me why. I think for the past 8 years, you know, I've earned their trust. I try to do a good job. And so it was an accomplishment, you know, and the, you know, awards are great, you know. We've served in the military. We've got plenty of, we call it eye wash, you know, eye wash.
Yes.
But eye wash is
something.
important kind of on, you know, on your class A's.
It is.
But what we do, what we feel, and we take away is really important.
Absolutely.
So, you know, the Order of the Longleaf Pine, I was very blessed and happy to get that. You know, and I've received, you know, the from the Chief Justice, North Carolina Chief Justice Commission on Professionalism award from them, and the Hispanic, you know, Diamante of North Carolina, which is a big Hispanic population, and so I got an award from them. So all those things, you know, I appreciate, but I'm more humbled by those organizations feeling that I've accomplished something and on their behalf. So I'm humbled by that. I really am. And so
That's great. So I have a question. We're making it on a lighter note. You see all these judge reality shows, these courtroom reality shows going on now. How do you feel about them? And would you ever do one if someone approached you to do a judge of reality?
I don't know if I would do it. I don't know how
In the
watchable.
courtroom.
I don't know how I watch. Now, I understand we may be on TV, so I need to get my beard trimmed. So I think, I
And
didn't
you
know.
gotta wear trousers.
I don't know.
under
I
the-
didn't know I was gonna be on TV, so I kind of, I got the hat on so that, and been out in the rain. I've been out in the rain working the pole today, but it's it's taken a long time for people to sometimes find comfort with themselves, and so we talk about this pre-show too.
Yep.
Is be comfortable with yourself, and I've every time I've ran and every time I've been in public, I've tried to just show people who I am,
Right.
and because people can sense if you're not.
Absolutely.
And so I just try to be who I am, and I've been blessed that the people of Cumberland County have felt comfortable with me about it. And so, would I do a reality show? Probably not. But I don't think people, the ratings would be really low. But
You don't know.
no,
They've really come around.
Yeah.
These
Like
probably
people
could be
don't
interesting.
realize. I think it gave people a more respect of what judges do and like what they deal with. And sometimes, I mean, Judge Judy and like who was another like real famous
Judge Brown,
Judge Bailey,
Judy.
Judge Brown. I
Uh,
think they've really just shed a different light on the courtroom process
It
and,
is.
and how they really go after people that, like, not go after, but they give them a dose of reality. Like, they be disciplining them with their words before they drop the hammer.
Well,
you know?
I grew up old school. I grew up old school, and it says, if you got in trouble in school, something like that, all I do is go, I'm gonna call you mama. No,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah,
I'm good.
that's- I
Please,
mean, don't
please.
call my
No, I'm okay. And so I think, just like in the court system, people come from different backgrounds and different experiences. And some people, need a hug, and some people need maybe a little bit of, don't make me call you mama. And
Right.
so and when I see juveniles come in, I do a lot of juvenile mentoring. One of the first things I ask them is, do you talk back to your mama?
Right. Okay.
You know?
That's a good question.
No,
que-
do you
that's
talk
a
back
good
to your mom? And the mom or grandma or whoever back, my grandmother, sometimes they'll be nodding, and I'm like, oh no, we can't have none of that.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll be like, no, and I'm like, good, that means, and the story I give them to try to, for them to get a perspective, because I, my father wasn't around and my mother passed when I was young and I went to different families. I said, your mom could disappear, or you can walk away from your mom today and not call or text her for 20 years. And she would not see you. And then 20 years from now, you knock on her door, and she open your door, and she'd be the
Open
happiest
arms,
person
yeah.
to see you. She'd give you the last
Like you never
dime in her
left.
pocket. She'd cook you a meal. That's the place you can always go. So if you disrespect your mom, that's the person that loves you no matter what.
Right.
And if you and
Unconditionally.
unconditional. And if I saw your mom at the mall and I was talking to her the way you talked to her, would you tolerate that? And it's no. So then you shouldn't either. For that woman that would take you in no matter what.
That's
And so
true.
sometimes you got to have a little talk to them, a little
Yeah.
talk. But sometimes you got to say, you got to give them some love.
Because they completely took away how we grew up disciplinary wise. Like now it's like you can't
That's
do nothing to
abuse.
these
Nah,
kids.
that's true. There's talking about a switch, right? Now my family was like a branch.
Yeah, I had to get a branch off a tree.
Then a
My
branch.
grandma wasn't
Have
playing
a
no
tree.
games.
That's right. Go get the chainsaw, cut down that pine tree over there. And come.
Hello, I'm Lou Olivera. I believe in service to our community and service to our nation. I've served both for over 20 years, in the Army, in the Gulf War, as a prosecutor and local attorney, on many boards and commissions, and most recently, as one of your 10 elected district court judges here in Cumberland County. I want to say thank you. Thank you for letting me serve you and your families. May God continue to bless you, our wonderful community, and our great nation.